Hey there guys. Alright, today we are back with another Mark Felton Productions video, this time at the gates of Moscow, the furthest German advance, 1941. Now the caption of this video talks about how this was how far the Germans pushed into Moscow, and he says the answer will surprise you. So yeah, I think, so from my understanding, from what I know, is that the Germans didn't push that far. That I know that there was a Battle of Moscow and that they got there, but that they never took the city. Right? I can't remember. So let's learn from Mark Felton, the World War II historian, and let's just dive in. You know what's really curious though is I wonder what the fighting of Moscow would have looked like compared to Stalingrad and Leningrad had Germany pushed far enough to have Moscow be in that kind of, similar situation as Stalingrad specifically. I wonder if the fighting would have been just as intense, or maybe even worse.
22nd of June 1941. Hitler unleashed Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history. Its target, Stalin's Soviet Union.
I love the clips he uses in his videos too. He's also really good at giving information out. Are these clips from Barbarossa?
It was the culmination of Hitler's thinking and theorizing about dealing with what he perceived to be his biggest enemy, Soviet communism. 3.8 million Axis soldiers would invade and fight in the 5-month operation to destroy the USSR. The Red Army, caught off guard by the timing of the German assault, its officer corps fatally weakened by political purges, reeled under the attacks.
Good job, Stalin.
The German armies concentrated on 3 main objectives: Leningrad, Moscow, and Kiev. In the first 30 days, Field Marshal Ritter von Lieb's Army Group North drove to within 135 miles of Leningrad, while Hitler's Finnish allies also attacked towards the city. In the center of the front, Field Marshal Fedor von Bock's Army Group Center drove 480 miles forward. Many of the Soviet Union's most important cities fell to the Germans.
Novgorod, Brest-Litovsk, Minsk. I'm probably pronouncing these horribly. I can't pronounce that one.
On the 17th of July, von Bock captured Smolensk, the key to Moscow.
That one I can pronounce, Smolensk.
At the same time, Army Group South, under Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt...
What the fuck is that D one? Dnepropetrovsk. I don't even know how you... Dnepropetrovsk. Yeah, you probably don't even pronounce the D.
It appeared as though the Soviet Union was finished. Stalin had 800,000 men with which to defend the capital, but of the 83 divisions available, only some 25 were fully operational. The Germans launched Operation Typhoon, the assault on Moscow, on the 30th of September 1941. Army Group Center had to overcome a series of elaborate defensive lines, centered on cities in the path to Moscow.
Well, I like this visualization.
The 2nd Panzer Group took Oriol, 75 miles south of the Soviet first main defensive line. 3 days later, the Panzers captured Bryansk, while the German Second Army attacked from the south. The Soviet 3rd and 13th Armies were encircled. In the north, the 3rd and 4th Panzer Armies attacked Vyazma, trapping 4 Soviet armies. The Germans had cracked Moscow's first defensive line and captured over 663,000 prisoners.
Jesus Christ! More than 500,000 people captured in one battle. That's so many fucking people.
3 million captured since the start of Barbarossa. Stalin had only about 90,000 men and 150 tanks left to defend Moscow
Oh
itself.
shit.
On the 13th of October, the 3rd Panzer Group was only 87 miles from Moscow. Martial law was declared in the city.
Let the courageous image of our great ancestors inspire you in this war.
But the weather was bad,
J.
with heavy
Stalin.
rain and snow that turned the roads into mud. German tanks, with their narrow tracks, struggled to cope. On the 31st of October, a temporary halt to the advance was called, so that the Germans could reorganize their precarious supply situation. This gave the Soviets a breathing space. Stalin organized 11 new armies that included 30 divisions of tough Siberian troops better able to cope with such conditions. 1,000 tanks also arrived. As the temperature fell, the mud froze and the German advance resumed on the 15th of November. The German plan was to move the 3rd and 4th Panzer armies across the Moscow-Volga Canal and envelop the city from the northeast. The 2nd Panzer Group would attack Tula, then close on Moscow from the south. These movements would cause the bulk of the Soviet armies to move to deal with these threats. As they did so, the German 4th Army would attack the center. For 2 weeks, short of fuel and ammunition, the German armies fought forward towards the city. In the
You know what I like most about this? Kind of random point. What I like most about it is that he's talking about the advance into Moscow. He isn't starting right at, he isn't starting right at the, title of the video where they're already in Moscow or whatever. He's starting he started when Operation Barbarossa began and is talking about the advance of the German armies and stuff. I think that's really well. That's
south, the
good.
Soviets stopped
good.
the
I like
2nd Panzer Group. On the 22nd of November, Siberian units counterattacked and defeated the 2nd Panzer. But the 4th Panzer Group managed to push the Soviets back and cross the Moscow-Volga Canal, the last major obstacle before the city itself. Units of the 7th Panzer Division were now 22 miles from Red Square and the Kremlin. But this group got no further forward on the 28th of November when a powerful Soviet counterattack pushed them back.
Okay. So much artillery.
Northwest of Moscow, the Germans reached Krasnaya Polyana, now Lobanya, just 18 miles from the Kremlin.
Oh,
but again,
shit.
stiff Soviet resistance and German supply problems stopped them cold. However, the German 258th Infantry Division got closer. Part of the division's Panzer Pioneer Battalion appeared to have discovered a gap in the Soviet lines. On the 2nd of December 1941, a small number of light vehicles and motorcycle combinations reached the township of Khimki, close to the Moscow Ring Road. I accidentally visited Khimki some years ago when I missed a connecting flight at nearby Sheremetyevo Airport and spent a night in the town. And this is all that the Germans managed as well. Officers claim to have seen through binoculars the gleaming golden domes and spires of Red Square and the Kremlin from their position at Khimki. They were 14 miles from the Kremlin. But the story is either exaggerated or a case of mistaken identity. Moscow in 1941 was fairly low-rise, so the Kremlin's buildings certainly stood out on the skyline. But many high-rise Soviet apartment blocks had been built along the main highways out of the city center. Also, Khimki in 1941 contained no tall buildings from which to get an elevated view of the far distance. Another problem with the story was the fact that the Soviets had camouflaged both
Now this is why I love. This is what this is one of the things that you learn to talk about as when you are college educated historian. This is one of the things that they kind of emphasize a lot when it comes to making your arguments and making videos is talking about the source of information like this. Now of course I'm not saying that people that aren't college educated historians don't do this. Certainly they do, but it's not you have to learn it on your own. So like you could, miss out on learning that. But at least how I was taught, and how I've been taught, there's been an emphasis on talking about the sources and taking that kind of deep look into those sources, like he's doing here, and it's fucking amazing.
Red Square and the Kremlin. The golden spires had been painted in dark colors, the Kremlin walls painted to look...
Personally, that's another thing that I think kind of sets historians apart, is how they deliver that information and talk about sources like Mark Felton just did. This is one of the things that I would consider makes someone extremely credible.
Look like buildings with windows. Camouflage and plywood structures had been erected on Red Square to confuse the street layout from the German Luftwaffe, and Lenin's mausoleum had been disguised as a 2-story residential building.
Huh.
In the snowy, cold conditions, the Germans probably saw snow and frost reflecting off the roofs in strong sunlight. Or they saw other towers and church domes in the general direction of central Moscow. Whatever the truth, Khimki was as far as the Germans managed to get towards Moscow.
Okay, so not that close.
The small number of German troops in the township waited for support that never came, and on the 3rd of December, a Soviet force of local militia, supported by a few T-34 tanks, managed to push them out of Khimki. If you want to see the spot today, the point of furthest German advance has been marked since 1966 by a memorial consisting of giant Czech tank traps at kilometer 23 on the Leningrad Square highway into Moscow, next to a giant IKEA furniture store. As severe winter weather descended and supply
Sweden has invaded further than the
German
Germans.
offensive against Moscow stalled. On the 5th of December, the Soviets launched a massive counterattack.
Music, these old videos, clips.
By the 7th of January 1942, when the Soviet offensive halted, the Germans had been pushed back between 60 and 150 miles from Moscow. The battle for Moscow was over. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share. Also visit my new audiobook channel.
Alright, that was At the Gates of Moscow, the Furthest German Advance in 1941 by Mark Felton Productions. I have nothing here to add. It's Mark fucking Felton. Of course he nailed it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.